Welcome. I'm Patricia Sargent, your host for Industry Insiders, the show in which we chat with people who work primarily behind the scenes supporting literature and literacy. On this episode, we're chatting with Latoya Smith, founder of LCS Literary Services. Latoya is an award-winning literary agent and editor. She's a consultant and developmental editor who works with USA Today and New York Times bestselling authors. And, full disclosure, Latoya used to be my editor. Latoya, thank you so very much for joining us today. It's so wonderful to see you.
Yeah, same here. And thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about this interview.
Oh, I'm excited. The pleasure and honor is mine, truly. Well, let's just chat. Can you tell us a bit about LCS Services, when you started it, why you started it, what you love most about it?
Absolutely. Let's see, where do I begin? So I worked in corporate publishing for quite a while. Actually, next year will be 20 years for me in this business. And when I started, or should I say when I was, working with Hachette Book Group, I worked with a number of authors, but I kind of felt a little, how can I say it? Like I was kind of held back a little bit. Like there were a lot of authors that I really wanted to work with and acquire as an acquisitions editor. And as we know, it's not just about what the editor likes, it's about what gets past the board. And, I felt really frustrated. There were a lot of authors who were kind of upset with me because I guess they thought it was my reasoning, like it was me that didn't want to take them on and not kind of the politics behind it. And so when I left Hachette, loved them, but I, was frustrated, left them, and I went to Sam Hain Publishing, where I had a lot more leeway in what I was bringing on. But then when they folded and I got laid off, I was just like, crap, like now what do I do? And so the day actually that I was laid off, I went on Facebook and I was like, hey guys, so I just got laid off and I'm now doing freelance editing. Does anyone need, an editor? And, in thinking about it, I was like, wow, well, what would my company name be? Like, I'm thinking about all this stuff. And then I just went with my initials. My name is Latoya Charlene Smith. And so I went with LCS Literary Services. And at the time, it was predominantly for developmental editing, consulting, and I had a slew of interns, which I'm very excited because most of them have now gone on to have publishing jobs. And so it's just really excited to see my babies out there in the world. But also I thought that, for me, I kind of got thrown in without any kind of guidance or help. At the time that I started at Hachette, my boss, Karen Thomas, also started. So she couldn't really help me because we both were new and trying to figure things out. And I just felt like I was just thrown in and had to figure it all out myself. And so I really, value mentorship and internships for people of color, especially because I think that there are a lot of things that you can be prepared for before your first job. And I think that a lot of us are not given those opportunities to learn in-house because many of the internship programs are through authors, are through personal contacts. And let's be honest, a lot of them are not people of color. And so these programs are, influencing and providing these opportunities for white, kids of their parents who are already in the business. Whereas you have a lot of people of color who don't even know about the world of publishing unless their schools provide that, which for me, when I went to Temple University, there was no book publishing program. So I had to do the closest thing, which was journalism. So that was a big part of why I started my company, was to provide editorial help to a lot of authors that I probably would not have been able to work with in-house. And now actually I started a new business. So I'm not actually doing any agenting through LCS Literary anymore. That is now predominantly an editorial business. And then I co-founded with Felice Laverne, another woman of color, a new agency called Art House Literary Agency. And that is now, where I'm doing the bulk of my agenting. But doing both, I think, was so liberating and freeing because I can still help any authors who want to do it on their own, who may not necessarily want to publish traditionally or may not have projects for a traditional audience, but then those who do want to be traditionally published, I can help them as well. So yeah, that's the backstory of LCS Lit and Art House Lit. And so the goal is to help as many authors as I can to achieve their goals.
Beautiful. And I was going to ask you about Art House, what happened to that, because I saw it comes up with you sometimes. I didn't realize it was two separate entities. That's really exciting.
Yeah. So it's crazy. Felice and I, and this is why conferences are so important to your audience, whether you're an author or aspiring publishing professional. She and I were on a panel together at a conference in Atlanta. And after hearing each other's background, we were like, wait a minute, you're HarperCollins? Oh, well, I Hachette. Oh, you left and started your own business? Oh, me too. Oh, you're an editor? Me too. And so, we exchanged information and we were like, we need to keep in touch. And we actually started bi-weekly calls where we just chatted with each other, because as, single sole proprietors, you don't really have anyone to bounce ideas off of. You don't really have a staff or a team to talk things through. So it was a way to support each other and then get to know each other. And after, I would say, 3 or 4 years of that, and me seeing her business grow and her seeing my business grow, I was like, maybe we need to come together and see like what we can do in this business. And the response has been amazing. I've had so many editors reaching out, like, wanting to introduce themselves and let us know like what they're looking for and like really looking to us to help them bring diversity to their list, which is really exciting.
When did you first discover your love of reading?
So my mom actually worked in daycare. She was like the vice principal, if you will, of her daycare center. Her technical job was she was the accountant, like the payroll person. But she had such an integral part of the school that she was a huge advocate of childhood reading and learning. And so oftentimes for Christmas or for my birthday, I would get books. Like, yes, I got toys, but I really got books. And my favorite book is actually The Monster at the End of This Book, which is a Sesame Street book. And also audiobooks. And these were back in the day audiobooks. So that meant you had the physical book and then you put the cassette tape in the player and you would listen to the cassette tape while reading the book. And this was what my parents did for me every night. Beautiful. Every night before bed, we read a book. And so it started there. And then when I got in elementary school, for all my Scholastic kids out there, I was a Scholastic kid person. I was the nerd that couldn't wait for the new catalog to come out. I was the one begging my parents for all this money every time there was a book fair. That was me. I love Babysitter's Club. I loved Encyclopedia Brown. I love Goosebumps. I love Judy Blume. I love Ramona Quimbley, like all those books. So my love for books actually started as a child. And then as I got older, my mom would pick up every book that she would see at the stores. And so actually I have first editions of Carl Weber and Mary B. Morrison books from their self-published days because my mom would just find these books in like random like little delis and variety stores in Brooklyn. And so it was so funny when I started working with Carl, he was like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen that version, in so long. And same with Mary. So I was probably reading some stuff I probably shouldn't have been reading, but my mom was just so excited I was reading that she would buy me anything that she got her hands on. And that is actually how I got my start in the publishing business. Because one of the books I received was True to the Game by Terry Woods. I received that as a Christmas gift in, oh goodness, what was that? 2001, I want to say, because I was a freshman in college. And I read that book literally in like 2 days. And my cousin, this was back when Wendy Williams had her radio show. She was on Hot 97. And Terry did an interview on Wendy Williams. And my cousin overheard it and was like, hey, I just heard that Terry needs an assistant. You should call her and apply for the job. And I was like, what? Like, how is that going to work? She's in New York. I was in Philly for school. I'm like, I don't think she would hire me. And my cousin's like, I don't care what you say. I wrote down the phone number. How she got the number, I don't know. Wrote down the phone number. You need to call her. So I'm like, this girl is crazy. So I was on my Christmas break and I called and Terry answered. And I was like, hey, so I heard you need an assistant and I would love to be your assistant. And she cracked up laughing. She was like, are you serious? Like, you're the first person who called. I'm like, really? These people are crazy. And so long story short, I sent her my resume. She loved my resume. She's like, okay, well, I have some travel coming up. So when are you in town again? And I was like, spring break, So she's like, that's fine. Keep in touch with me. Let me know when you're in town. And so when I came to town, I called her and she's like, all right, come meet me at the office for the interview. So I'm like, okay. And when I get there, she's like, okay, so here's where you're going to be doing this and here's where you're going to be doing that. And I'm like, I got the job. I got the job. Oh my gosh. And so, yeah, that's how my love for reading segued into my first publishing job. And so imagine that.
No, I can't. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Do you know how they would have had to sedate me?
Right? Like when she answered, I was like, hello? Like I was so shocked. So needless to say, I think that was kismet. That my cousin was supposed to hear that interview because I wasn't really listening to, Wendy Williams at that time. So had it not been for her, I probably never would have got my start in publishing, or at least not in that way. Who knows how I would have gotten in, but yeah.
That is so awesome. And the fact that you went for it, even though you thought your cousin was crazy, that says that is just wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. It's interesting because I feel like that is part of my personality, and I'm not sure where it comes from, but I'm excited that, I'm very stubborn. I guess that's the Taurus in me. And so, when I want something, I'm just gonna try it. And I always say the worst that can happen is nothing. I mean, you're back in the same place. So why not?
Yeah.
The worst they can say is no, So
yeah.
That's been my attitude with everything, even with starting my business. Like people are like, oh my gosh, and you just started it. And I'm like, what did I have to lose? At the time I was living in Georgia, I was unemployed. I had no job prospects. What was there to lose and to go to the very community that has supported me as an acquisitions editor? And so many of them at that time were now self-publishing. So I actually had authors that were like, screw that publishing company. Like, you should work for yourself. And I've got tons of authors that I can recommend, So I did a lot of what I tell authors to do. I joined lots of Facebook groups. I got on Twitter and like all the social media outlets, and I just let everyone know, hey, I'm available. Hey, I'm available. And that's how, it really got rolling. It was word of mouth, honestly.
Super. There's a quote. It goes, I'm going to paraphrase it. When someone tells you no, that doesn't mean no. It just means they can't do it with you. That's right. That's what no is. So no shouldn't be a closed door. It's just you're going through the door alone.
Right. And I even say this to authors, even when you get those rejections, so much of this business is subjective, and it's who you know. So a lot of times they're probably not the right person, and that's okay. Keep going. You will find that reader that will resonate with your voice or that will love what you have written, or you'll get the feedback to know what you need to fix to make your project, strong enough to go out with it. Or you might decide, hey, this has pushed me to do it myself. So there's so many different, ways that you can take a rejection. And that is, to just keep going or improve or do it on your own,
Right.
You've got options. That's the point.
Right. So 20 years in the book publishing industry, does that count your being an assistant?
Yes, because I started working with Terry in 2002.
Super. Oh my gosh, your 20th anniversary. So that's a wonderful milestone. What drew you? I think you kind of already answered this though with your love for reading, but what drew you to be a literary agent first?
So that actually, yeah. Okay. So it was interesting because while I was an assistant, The first time that I was asked was actually Victoria Sanders. I'm sure many authors know this agent. She's a big, big, big time agent. And she had a really strong relationship with my boss, Karen Thomas. And she just loved me. And she used to tell Karen all the time, I'm going to steal her from you. I'm going to steal her. She should be an agent. I'm going to steal her from you. And I kept thinking, like, I don't know about that. Like, I had my cushy salary. So I'm thinking commission. I don't want to do that. And so skip ahead now, when I was laid off and I started LCS Lit, I had events that I already had, committed to. And so, I let them know, like, hey, I'm no longer with the publisher. I'm now working on my own. Do you still want me to come? And they're like, of course, you still have the experience. You could still offer, expertise. And so I went out to a couple of conferences and I had authors saying, okay, so now that you're not, an editor anymore, you're going to be an agent. Maybe you could be my agent. And like people started asking me to be their agent. And I was like, I have no experience as an agent. Like, yes, I'm an editor, but like, I don't have like I have contacts, but in a different way. And then at the time, a good friend of mine, Lori Perkins, she started saying, you should be an agent, blah, blah, blah. So then finally, Lori was just like, look, why don't you become an agent with my company, with L. Perkins Agency? And I was like, no. So I actually said no at first, but then I just kept getting authors asking me to be their agent. And so finally, Lori was like, look, you can still do your editing thing, like, and this could be kind of like an added income. And so I was like, you know what? Why not? And so actually that was my first agenting job, was with L. Perkins while I had just started LCS Lit. So it was kind of like figuring out which way I wanted to go. But I got my feet wet with an established agency. And then in 2018, I left L. Perkins and decided to just do everything under LCS Lit.
For our readers, what exactly do literary agents do?
Of course. So I think most people think that all agents do is kind of negotiate deals and then kind of go off into the sunset. But an agent's job is way bigger than that. Yes, I negotiate deals. And I think that's why a lot of the authors were excited to work with me, because they knew as an editor, I knew other editors. I know what acquisitions boards look like. I know what the in-house struggle is for the editor to get it through their acquisition board. So I think they felt like I had a unique perspective, having been an editor, to help them get in. Also to help edit their projects to get them up to speed to pitch. So I think that was the appeal. But also as an agent, in addition to obviously trying to negotiate the best deal, we are brainstorming with you. So once that deal is over, what are you going to write next? Making sure you're forward thinking, keeping you motivated, helping you come up with new ideas. In some cases, it's problem solving. If there's an issue with the publisher, I jump in. If the author is upset, I don't mind being the bad guy. If the editor is upset, I don't mind being the good guy to make them not seem so bad. Also, I'm the sounding board. I'm the therapist sometimes. Writing is very solitary. Most authors' families know nothing about publishing or writing. Oftentimes it's considered a hobby and not a real craft. And so authors are looking for support. They're looking for someone who gets it. So I can be so many different things, but I think the main job of a literary agent is to manage an author's career, especially if you don't know the ins and outs of a contract, or you don't know the ins and outs of a publishing deal, or how it works with a publisher. The agent should be there to manage. That is our job, to manage. And so this is why I always tell an author, even if you love an agent or an agency, and that is your dream agent or agency, if that agent or agency does not love your work or understand what it is you're trying to do, you should never have to beg someone to take you on, because that right there, we talk about red flags, that's a huge red flag. And that will transcend into when they're pitching, that will transcend into the editor's enthusiasm. It really starts with the agent. If they're not excited about it, it's hard to get other people excited about it. So you want to make sure that your agent first is really excited and understands what you're trying to do, because they're going to convey that to the editor. And then when choosing the right publisher, the same applies. You want to make sure, especially nowadays, that you're not just filling a quota, but that the editor really gets what you're trying to do and really, understands that, because they're going to be your in-house support, getting the sales team excited, getting the marketing and promo team excited. So you want to make sure whoever you're choosing to be your agent and publisher, that they really love what you're doing and get what you're doing, because you're going to be working with these people for sometimes 2 to 5 years, depending on how many books you're signing. And so you want to make sure, or at least try to make sure, that's going to be a good, long-lasting relationship.
And I think it's really important for readers to know that part of the equation as well, that sometimes authors are not able to find a representative who views their project as enthusiastically as they do, and that could keep the story from getting to the reader as well.
Correct.
So correct. I really appreciate you bringing that part up. Now, I'd like to pull readers a little further into your world. And if you could tell us, I know there's no such thing as a typical day, but what are the highlights of what you would hope to have as an average day?
Yeah, sure. So for the most part, my day starts at 6:30, sometimes 7.
Wondering, because you send me emails and when did she wake up?
Yeah, I like to start early because honestly and truly, even when I worked in corporate, by 3 o'clock, my brain kind of shuts down. So I find that starting earlier, allows me to kind of end my day earlier. And so for the most part, in the mornings, checking emails. And then my team has a system we use called Slack. It's like where we can kind of communicate together. So I'm checking emails and I'm checking my Slack. And then I'm getting ready for the day. In most cases, it's a combination of phone calls with either editors and or my clients. There's always some kind of editing going on. I'm either editing revised manuscripts, first drafts. I'm getting proposals together. Sometimes I'm working on pitches. So I'm getting pitch letters together, pitch lists together.
What's a pitch list?
Oh, so a pitch list is just who I'm going to query for that project. So I'm either I have my own database of editors, and then I'm going on Publishers Marketplace to look at the deals to see if I've missed anyone. And so and then of course, if my clients, they may have had relationships with editors, met editors, or have, again, their wish list of people. So I am kind of referring to all of those things when I'm creating my sub list that I'm going to, pitch the submission to. I'm doing follow-ups. If you could see in front of me right now, I have whiteboards wazoo, like up the wazoo on my walls, because there's so much follow-up as an agent that you have to do. So I have to know what's out. I have to know what's about to go out. I have so many Post-its telling me of daily tasks that I have to handle. So it's busy. And then that doesn't even account for staff management and staff meetings. That doesn't account for reading submissions and rejecting submissions. I have to do that in between managing my clients. And currently I have almost 30 clients. So it's constant juggling of, okay, who's doing what. So I actually have lots of task reminders to do follow-ups, to make sure royalty statements have come in, to see, okay, this person delivered this book. Have they paid this person? Have we gotten the advance for that? So it's juggling a lot of different things, from new projects to follow-up to, networking. A huge part of my job is networking.
Networking with who?
Meeting new editors and agents too, because I do think I don't know everything. So a lot of times, especially, with COVID, it's not been as many conferences, but that was a huge thing for me, meeting other agents at conferences and kind of talking to them and seeing what their experiences are like, especially as someone who has their own agency. I want to learn from maybe someone at an established agency, what things are you providing your clients? What does your team look like? Because obviously we want to make sure we're providing our clients with that. even before I started Art House. Like that was really important to kind of know what other agents are doing. And this is why I tell authors, research, talk to other people, because there's so much you can learn from your peers. And so it's the same with me. Also, I have a cachet of publicists that I know who work in various different places. And I'm always saying, hey, so and so is coming out with this book. Oh, when you do that lineup, do you want to, include this so and so? So I'm also like pushing my clients as well. So that's part of my networking. It's meeting and maintaining, not just meeting, but maintaining relationships with editors and publishers. And then it's also other agents, authors, sometimes I have author friends, that I've known over the years, and they want to do catch ups or tell me, a lot of them refer clients to me. So yeah, that's part of my networking and kind of making sure I'm staying abreast of what's going on and what people are acquiring and what they're looking for.
Now, you see, it seems to me that the submission list to publishing houses and editors takes up a lot of your time, because could you help us to understand what goes into identifying which book projects would go to which editors at which houses? Because that is you say it kind of quickly when you're ticking down your list of to-dos, but that probably takes a lot of time because of the research.
I would say preparing a pitch probably takes me like a full day of work. Sometimes more, it depends, but usually I can do it in about 3 or 4 hours. And I try to break it up. So I do my pitch letter first and I get that out of the way. And then I'll focus like just on the submission list. And you're right, it does take some time, but I think just to backtrack, this is what helps me to determine if I want to take on a project. Because as I'm reading it, if people or publishers are not popping into my mind, it's probably not for me if I don't know what to do with it, So somebody—
That's a great point.
Yeah, somebody or some publisher should be popping into my mind like, ooh, so-and-so would love this. And again, it comes with experience, with knowledge, with getting to know editors. You're like, oh yeah, Rakia Clark would love this. Or, Monique Patterson would love this. It's in getting to know them and what they're looking for. And that's why I said it's not just new editors, but maintaining a relationship with editors, because their taste changes. Like every 6 months, they're looking for something different. Also, this is why my database is really important, because I have a spreadsheet right now where it has, the editors, etc., but I can actually drill down by category. So that makes it much easier for me to look through my spreadsheet when I pull up contemporary romance and then all the editors that want that, I kind of pick through. Now, some of them I know very well, others not so well. So again, I really rely on Publishers Marketplace, because I'll go on there if I'm not sure and I'll look and see what that editor has acquired. And that's how I'll nail it down. Because as most of you know, there might be multiple editors at an imprint that like similar things. So, I want to make sure I'm narrowing it down to the right person. Now, generally, when I go out with my submission list, unless someone has made a personal request or we're just doing like a targeted, these people ask for it first, so we'll give them exclusive, I usually send it out to as many people as possible. And then if I get rejections, or a lot of critical feedback that is like, the same thing is wrong by 10 different people, then we'll kind of stop. I'll have the author make some revisions based on that feedback. And then I may resubmit if the editor said, oh, if they do blah, 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 send it back. But if they didn't, I try to come up with another list of people to send it to. And I'll keep going until I just feel like, all right, I've exhausted every option. I don't know who else to send it to. At which point, that's when we'll start brainstorming and talking about, well, what else do you have? What else are you working on? But of course, as I meet new people, I'll still bring up those projects, because at the end of the day, I want to make a sale just like you. So if there's an opportunity to bring up something, even if it hasn't sold, I'll keep bringing it up until I find the right person for it.
Super. See, that is so, I'm so glad that you touched on that, because it's so critical to understand that's how we get the books that readers love to them. That's how we deliver it to them. So I'm really glad you brought that up. That's really good insight. Well, we're going to pause here. Don't forget to hit subscribe, like, and post a comment or question in the comments below. And then watch for part 2 of our interview with Latoya Smith. Until next time, happy reading.